Khathu Rasilingwane, die DA se burgemeesterskandidaat vir Ekurhuleni, weet hoe dit voel om in 'n gemeenskap te bly waar die regering van jou vergeet het. Maar nou wil sy burgemeester van Ekurhuleni word en sy is hier om met ons te gesels oor hierdie belangrike metro, want sê sy, dit het 'n misdaadtoneel geword. Khathu, welcome to Maroela. It's lovely having you here.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for having me here. I really appreciate the platform.
So Khathu, for our readers that do not know, you were brought up in Tembisa. Since the age of 10, you lived in Mauritania. How did that upbringing, tell us a bit about your upbringing, and then how did that ultimately lead you to becoming the DA's mayoral candidate?
Thank you so much for that question. So I was born and raised, obviously the first years of my upbringing in Limpopo. I think when I was 9 years old, my dad then passed on. When he passed on, my mom was a housewife. She didn't do any work. She was reliant, obviously supported by the husband. And so when I was 9 years old, my dad passed in February on the 14th, was buried on my birthday on the 26th. So it's a memory I still carry to date. So I remember that year, my mother had to then move the site so that she can obviously start, finding means to work for us. And when she came this side, there was still a little bit of money left from my dad because he was working at the time. And so I remember during school holidays, when I was 9 years old, I visited Gauteng province to just come and spend a little bit of time with her. And I remember coming to Gauteng province and we got off at Boulders in Midrand. And when we got off there, we took a taxi, which was like a taxi that connects both Galfontein and Ebony Park. And I remember driving down towards Galfontein, and I saw an informal settlement, and I remember saying to my mom, "Oh," because in Limpopo there wasn't those kind of environment, and I said to her, whispering that I hope we are not going there because I was never exposed to such a life. And at the time, we were fortunately not, obviously not going there because there was still a little bit of money where she was renting a decent house in Ebony Park. Then I was 10 years old. I then obviously moved to this side because my mom was now basically based this side. And at the time, she had ran out of money. And so when I was 10 years old, I then lived in an informal settlement. This is an environment where to date, it still breaks my heart that there's so many people that lives in such, living conditions because there isn't any services in terms of water, electricity, refuse removal. But more than anything, I think the community, the resilience that they had, the unity, and just, how much hope they carried is one of the things that, shaped the woman that I am today. It's one of the contributors towards why I decided that I am actually going to take this direction and form part of those that fights for service delivery and the rights of, the people. Living in an informal settlement without water, without electricity, was one of the worst experiences. And it does break my heart to know that there's still so many people in Gauteng province that still live in such environment. But for me, instead of allowing that situation to get to the best of me, it really encouraged me to decide to want to be a better person and, contribute towards being the voice for those that had already given up. And so that is why I decided to be part of politics in a community where we lived at, just maybe to respond to why the DA and not any other political parties. There was a peer councillor from the Democratic Alliance whom service was really brilliant. He was amazing. He cared about the community. He ran petition to ensure that, there could be housing. He ran petition to ensure that there could be water and electricity. They still don't have to date, unfortunately. But I think his efforts, his love for the community truly drew me closer to the Democratic Alliance because of the caliber of public reps that they had. Even when he was not being successfully in driving issues, he would make time and come and give us the feedback. And I think that is what literally drew me closer to the Democratic Alliance. And I said I wanted to form part of this organization and also contribute towards fighting for our community. But the living environment, it breaks my heart that there's still people living in such environments. But it is a community that shaped the woman that I am. It taught me to be perseverance, to hold on, to be resilient against all odds. So yeah, from when I was 10 years old, I literally went to my primary school, high school. I finished grade 12 from that, environment. Just in high school, and I really just want to share this because I don't think people realize how much of your dignity takes away from you. So because there was no electricity, we use paraffin for, to warm, to cook, and do stuff. And my mom was a student vendor at the time, so there was a little bit of money to be able to take me to at least a better school, not the best, but I didn't go to a government school. And so I went to a school in Hillbrow, and because of the paraffin and how strong the smell is, I remember this one time in class, a friend of mine was like to me, "Ooh, friend, have you heard that there's someone that smells of paraffin in class?" And unfortunately, that person was me. And that really broke me. That really, lived with me. And as much as there was money from my mom selling fruits and veggies to buy your little sprays, I think they were 20 rand at the time. But the paraffin smell is too strong for those little sprays to be able to get rid of it. And so it's just the realization that so many people are still living in such unconducive, environment. And I think that is why I continuously have the drive to be able to, fight for those that don't have a voice until we can get it right for the people of South Africa.
Khathu, what a story.
Yeah.
And you haven't left Ekurhuleni. You've decided to stay in Ekurhuleni. You are now one of the mayoral candidates. And why is Ekurhuleni important? I mean, why should people, South Africans that do not live in this metro, care about Ekurhuleni?
So the city of Ekurhuleni is one of the most, in my view, it's one of the biggest economic engine that we could have in South Africa because, we are an industrial hub, logistic. OR Tambo is there. People travel to the world from, our city. And so it is a great city with great potential. But I think experiencing and seeing the leadership crisis that has been, around for the times that I became aware truly led me into believing that we have to challenge the status quo. And if it needs to be done, then one has to, face the courage or have the courage to be able to raise their hands to say, well, I think I want to do it. I want to do it for the 4.2 million residents that haven't been having service delivery, have been reading a lot about corruption that is, happening in Ekurhuleni. You would know about the whistleblowers that have been killed for daring to do their work. And so for me, deciding to put my hand for the city of Ekurhuleni, it's because I saw the crisis and the agency wherein we need new leadership in Ekurhuleni. So that is why I decided this is a great city. This is a city that I love. This is a city that I believe has great potential. And if there is great leadership that, had the best interest of the people of Ekurhuleni at heart, we can be able to turn it around. And so my vision is to see an Ekurhuleni that, works, an Ekurhuleni where businesses comes and invest, and an Ekurhuleni where, service delivery is operational, an Ekurhuleni where, we can all be proud of.
So you have repeatedly said that Ekurhuleni is a crime scene. We've also read about the allegations of corruption.
Yes.
Even murders linked to municipal investigations. Just how serious is the problem, Khathu?
Sure. Yeah, I need to repeat this. The city of Ekurhuleni is a crime scene. It is a crime scene in a sense that you would know of the late Mpoma Fole, who was investigating a toilet tender worth 2 billion. That was doing very well in terms of getting to the bottom of, that case, and he was taken out. You would know of everything that is appearing on the Madlanga Commission, the revelation that have been spoken about, wherein you have the highest officials, people that have been entrusted with the responsibility to service the resident in Ekurhuleni, that are accused of the most horrific things. And I say it's a crime scene because how do you get led by people that are accused of fraud defeating the ends of justice, corruption, murder. And these are like your highest, your HOD, the biggest within the municipality. And I mean, currently we also sit with about 5 senior leaders. These are your HODs that are supposed to ensure that they lead these departments to the ground so that there could be service delivery. All of them are currently being, accused of sexual harassment in one case or another, and are currently on suspension. And you ask yourself to say, where is the executive? Where is the political executive? Because their responsibility is supposed to be holding those officials accountable. And when you see the leaders, the political leaders not doing that, then you know that we have a serious crisis. But over and above that, you would know of Julius Mkwanazi, that is accused of also like killing people. You would know about Marius van der Verdwa, I think his name is along the late, who was taken out for daring to speak on the Madlanga Commission. That tells you the kind of crisis that we have in the city of Ekurhuleni in terms of criminal activities that are happening within the municipality. And that is why I call it a criminal scene. Because until we can have a culture of accountability, until individuals such as Yomkwanazi can be held accountable, then we're not doing anything. How do I tell someone on the ground to say, respect the rule of law, yet you have senior officials that do not have any respect whatsoever for the rule of law? You'd also know about the former city manager that at the time was earning 3.1 million and was able to fund a trip that is worth 3.3 million to go shop in London. I mean, 1 + 1 just doesn't add. How does she afford it? How does she do it? We also just read over the weekend that there's also companies that were given tenders, and those companies were in turn used to hire their children. And you ask yourself, how do you hire your children when there's almost over 30% of people in Ekurhuleni that are unemployed, but your children are sorted how? So there's just a lot going wrong in the city of Ekurhuleni. But I think what makes it very frustrating is that you have a political executive that is enabling it and not doing anything about it. You would know of the current city manager that is accused of so many other things. And since the 19th of April, the mayor has not been able to act upon that. And that should tell you that we have a serious leadership crisis in Ekurhuleni.
It's really scary. And given these allegations, was there any hesitation ever for you before you said, okay, let me put my hand up, let me be a mayoral candidate?
Yeah.
And, are there any safety concerns regarding this position that you're going for?
Honestly, I do think about it. I have been told several times about it. I've received calls about, people threatening me. But I think I'm at a point in my life where I realize that at some point it has to be done. And at some point there has to be someone with the courage to face them head on. I remember when I went to open a criminal case against the former city manager, because I'm not sure if you would know, but she's the most feared woman in Ekurhuleni. They tell you, I think there was a politician that spoke about it in a podcast to say, even when it's like conversation among guys, they'll tell you, no, you don't touch that one. You don't. And I'm like, how do we normalize such a culture? How do we fear one individual that is destroying everything that is in Ekurhuleni and there's no one to stand up? So there is those, risks, but I want to be able to do it for the 4.2 million resident in Ekurhuleni. And if it means putting my life in line, I would rather be killed knowing that I fought for a greater Ekurhuleni than to allow an individual to normalize a culture which doesn't make all of us proud, but also steals from the individuals in Ekurhuleni. So I've been asked so many times, how are you? How do you? Why do you even mention a name? And I'm like, she is not God. She has to be challenged. She has to be faced head on. And if there's any wrongdoing in her part, then she must be held accountable because she's not above the law.
You've just spoke about a greater Ekurhuleni. Do you believe that can be achieved? Do you think Ekurhuleni, the metro, can be turned around?
I have so much faith in the city of Ekurhuleni. I have been to different kinds of communities. I've engaged with people in Ekurhuleni and their hope. truly motivates me to believe that there is hope for the city of Ekurhuleni. There is great potential for the city of Ekurhuleni. We just need to ensure that we talk to all the residents, encourage them about the importance of registering to vote so that we can turn around the situation. I see an Ekurhuleni that can work for all its citizens. I see an Ekurhuleni where we can crush corruption. I see an Ekurhuleni where communities can be safe again, where I don't have to feel afraid because the street lights is not working and it's dark at 6 o'clock. I strongly believe that we can fix the basics of service and make our city of Ekurhuleni great again. There's so many challenges right now. I need to be very honest. For us to be able to turn around the city, it will take us much time. But I'm a strong believer that it has to start somewhere. We have to do it. And ultimately, we will get it to be the best city as it's supposed to be. We've seen where the DN government is in government in the city of Cape Town. We've seen in Meadville, they have the lowest in terms of unemployment. And I strongly believe that if it can be done elsewhere, why can't we do it as an industrial engine of this country?
Is the DA gunning for a majority in Ekurhuleni, and do you think it can be done? Can the DA get a majority in Ekurhuleni with this municipal election?
So because of the privilege that I have had to go around communities, I've seen the frustration that many people have, particularly in areas where people will think that previously we were not getting a lot of support. These are your township. There is a lot of people that are tired. There is a lot of people that are realizing that to just be tired and not do anything about it is not good enough. And so they are registering to vote. And so those engagements that I have with them, the one-on-one, heart-to-heart kind of conversations that we have, makes me strongly believe that we can have an outright majority. We can have a 50% plus one. And there was communication that was provided this week to say there's almost 355,000 people that are DA supporters that are incorrectly registered and some are not registered. Our responsibility is to ensure that we go to those communities and encourage them to register to vote so that they can make their voice to be heard. This number is more than a number that the ANC got in the 2021 election. And so if we can be able to get to those individuals, I'm a strong believer that we can come out with 50% plus one. Coalition, just lastly, you would know that we were in government in the year 2021 and we are not prepared for it at the time. It was a chaos. It becomes truly difficult to be able to implement your vision. You are working with smaller parties that they are only interested in enriching themselves. They don't have a mandate from big communities. They only have one seat. So they only want to best serve those individuals, which is like a smaller community. And they can really be hectic. So if we are serious about turning things around in the city of Ekurhuleni, we need 50% plus one. And that is what we are gunning for. And that is what I strongly believe with my experience on the ground that we are going to get.
Dit was Khathu Rasilingwane, die DA se burgemeesterskandidaat vir Ekurhuleni.